Hi guys, welcome to the channel. This is Waga, and we are going to continue with our SwiftUI Instagram clone. And what we're going to do today is I'm logged in as a user called Patrick, right? And what we could do is go to his let's click on this, come here, search for P, and we get password. And password is the only user I've created post for so far. And we see password has one follower, right? When we hit the unfollow button, the followers go to 0, right? And then when we come back and we find that our following is 0, right? And if we go back to password, P, hit password like so, and we click on the follow, his followers go up by 1, and if we come back, we find that our following has gone up by 1. So basically that's what we're going to do over the next two videos. It's a bit long and there are several things that are required. If you can notice, we have navigation links here. Like if you click here, you get the navigation link and you can click on password and you can get his details. And if you don't follow them, you can follow them. You find this his posts, right? And if you click on the button, you also see the post, this other view, right? Like so. And it looks a bit okay, we'll figure it out. Yeah. So basically that it will take us about 2 videos to do, and that's what we're going to do today. Now, in the next 2 videos actually. Now, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Like the video and leave a comment in the comment description, and we will continue from here. And how our followers and following are going to work along. So we are in our Cloudflare store on our Firebase console. Right, and as you can see, we have our one follower, right? And if you go to the followers collection, let's click towards the end. So if you click here, you go to extensions, right? And we find the ID of the person whom we're logged in is following us. This 6dx, if we come to users, 6dx is about 6dx is password, right? And if we come back to our app, we see that the user we're logged in as Patrick is following password, right? So if we come to followers, let's click towards the end. If we come to followers, we have passwords UID, and then in it we have a collection called followers, and in that collection we have LRD. LRD is, I believe, the logged in user. That is what's his name? Patrick, right? And if we go back to, let's go back to our Firestore, like so, and if we go to following, we will find Patrick's UID, and in it we find following, and who are we following? 6dx, who is password, right? And and basically that is the effect of following or unfollowing somebody, right? So for example, we're in the following collection, and we have Patrick's UID. Patrick is our current user, if you remember. If we come back to profile here, like so, yeah, you see our user is called Patrick, right? So if we go and search for users and we create P and we pick password, we have the unfollow button, right? So when we click on this button, let's click on it. Let's look at the document. Have a look at the document. This is the UID of the person we're following, who is password, right? So if we hit on it, this will disappear. We'll delete this from the document, right? We'll be writing the code for it, so I'm just showing it visually at what the code will do. So if we hit unfollow, give it a second, you see this document has been deleted. It takes a bit of time for it to propagate all the way, and then when we hit follow, we see the document is written. And the same thing works. Let's go back. If we were in following, let's go to followers, like so, and we hit on the followers collection, and we have Patrick's UID, right? And if we hit unfollow, give it a second, it's deleted. If we follow him, so you can see it is being propagated on our, this is just our profile, I think we call it profile header widget. This is our profile header widget. We're passing the data in. We're reusing the widget, right? It's the same widget we use as in the profile. Actually, when you are writing it up, we'll just copy the code. We'll just copy and paste, right? So basically that. But for now, what we need to concentrate on is the code that makes all this run, and that's what we're going to do. Service. Now, if you see a folder on the sidebar of a folder that you do not have or a file that you do not have, do not worry, we'll get to it. I have just created it ahead of time so that I could test out the features. So if you see, for example, here follow service, don't worry that you do not have a follow service. That just means that we will create a follow service at some point, so do not worry about this. In fact, let's just get rid of it. Now we're in our profile service and we can begin. Now the first thing we're going to create is a property that is going to check whether or not we follow you follow a user, right? And this is going to be called at, we could make it at published so that we can look at it, we can monitor it, and we could say var follow check, and this is going to start off as false, right? So we're going to start off the check for whether you follow someone or not. We're going to start it off as false, right? And that's the first thing we're going to do, right? And after that, we are going to create a bunch of functions. And the first one will check whether a certain user is in the logged in users following collection. So this is going to check whether or not, like if we can use our example, right? This is going to check whether or not a certain user is in the following collection, right? Yeah, so if you're logged in, for example, as Patrick, it will check in your following collection whether the user is there, right? So what this function is going to look at is going to be is we're going to build upon these functions that we have here, and this is going to be static func, and we're going to have following. We're going to call it following ID, right? Following ID, like so. And this is going to take and I noticed one thing is that we didn't capitalize the user ID here. We didn't capitalize the user ID. The I should be capitalized. You could not do it. It won't affect the code as long as you call it correctly, right? So you could capitalize it. In this case, we are going to capitalize it, right? So we're going to say user ID, like so, and this is going to be string, and it's going to refer to a document. So we could say document reference. I think we already imported Firebase because we have this, right? And what you're going to check is we're going to return, and we're going to reach up to following. And remember, following is just a reference to the following collection, right, up here. So we say following dot document, and remember the documents are put according to the user's UID, right? So the current logged in user is auth dot auth, like so, dot current user, and we are using their UID. We have already seen that in the backend, right? And the collection, remember there's only one collection here, we call it, so it's following, right? So when you get to the UID, the people who follow, right? So we could say following, and here we could say it has to be in string, remember, following, and this could be document user ID, like so, right? Why is it complaining? auth.auth.collection.document. Okay, it's supposed to be following. Oh, we forgot to put the dot here, dot UID, like so. So we do this, and this is going to be the following ID, right? And the next thing we need to do is do the opposite of this, right? Just for the followers, right? So for that, basically, it's going to be a lot of the same. We could say static func followers ID, and this is going to take the user ID. Remember, we looked at it in the backend. You could refer to that part of the video if you want to see how this works. And this is going to refer to a document in the collection, so document reference. Firebase is a collection of document collection in that alternating fashion. And I don't know how far deep you could go. That is the Firestore collection, not Fire. The real-time Firebase is a JSON, right? So for here, instead of, we could just copy this and we could say followers dot document, and the document is going to be the user ID, right? That has been passed in, and the collection in question. The collection in question, we have to put it in quotes. Remember, this is going to be followers, like so, and the document you're going to look for is the logged in user, right? So you could say auth.current user.uid, like so, right? And so we have those two functions like that. And look at what the code does. And basically, when you come to the first one was following user ID. So following, the logged in user's ID is this, and then inside it we have a collection called following. If you can look at the code, let's just look at the code quickly. So we have the following in the following collection, then we have the current user's logged in ID, then we have in that we have a collection called following, and we have the document user ID, right? So basically this is Patrick's user ID. In it we have a collection called following, and in it we have the user ID of the person we are following, who is password, right? And if we look at the next thing we need to look at is the followers, right? So in the followers we have the user ID passed in, then in the we have a collection called followers, then inside it we have a document of the current user, who is Patrick, right? So it's Patrick is LR, right? So if we go back, we can have a look at following, and in it we have, no, is it following or followers? Followers, right? Followers. So in followers we have 6dx, which is the passwords collection, right? And in it we have a collection called followers, right? And in it we have the logged in, which is LR, right? The logged in user, the current user Patrick, is LRD. So basically that's what that line does, right? So it's just a reference to that point. Okay, and we can continue from there. And now we want to toggle, what's it called? We want to toggle the follow, right? So for that we could come down here and we could say func follow state, and this one takes in a user ID as a string, right? We'll call it from here, so we don't need to call it from outside. That's why it's not a static function, right? Or we don't need to do so currently. If we need to do so in the future, we probably will. We could say profile service dot following ID, right? We're using this reference, right? Following ID, and we're just going to take the user ID, and the method we want is get document, and we can clean this out and just put in our code in a closure, and we could come here and say document comma error, like so. Let's come down here and we say if let doc equals document, like so. Doc dot, that means the doc, if the doc exists, we set the follow check to true, right? We say self dot follow check, and we set it to true, right? Like if we check inside and we find the user's user ID inside there, right? That means you are following, right? So that's what that code does. Else we do the opposite. We say self dot follow check, and we set this to false, like so, right? Remember we created the follow check up here, right? So basically I think we already created follows and followers, right? So basically that's that, and we can continue from there. Is actually work on that follow service. So we could come to the services folder, hit command N, and we could create a new Swift file, and this new Swift file is going to be called the follow service, like so. So we hit create, and we have our follow service, and since we have a lot of Firebase stuff, the first thing we're going to do is import Firebase, like so. And after that we are going to create a class. We could call it follow service, and this is going to be an observable object, like this. And the first thing we're going to do is create a function that will update. So you see how we automatically update our follow count, right? When we search for P and we come to password, all of them work, but I just like password because he has more. If you click on the tabs, you see he has pictures already, and he has posts already. So rather than put up the other users don't have any posts, right? If you look, Pauline is just a user but doesn't have a post, right? Just creating so that you can see this search function. We'll be working on that I'm not sure in this video or the next one. Anyway, so the first function is going to update our follow count, and for that we could say func, and this is going to be update follow count, and this is going to take user ID, and this is going to be of type string, like so. and we are going to have following count like so, and this is going to be we could say at escaping, and we're going to put an underscore there, say following count is going to be an integer like so, and it's going to return a void, right, like so. And after that we going to put a comma here, and we are going to say, what's it called, followers count. We're just going to repeat the same thing for the followers count. We could come here, copy this, copy it, right, copy, paste, and instead of following we are going to say followers, right? So you could say followers count like so, and yeah, and remove this comma. This comma doesn't belong there, right? And we can now have our code block, and in it we could say profile service dot, that's why we made them, we made the functions static functions, if you can remember, and we're going to reach into the followers collection. This expects a user ID, and the user ID we're going to pass, you see we're using the user ID with a small I, but we're going to pass in the user ID. Let me just spell it correctly, user ID that we passed in up here like so, and we're going to get the document, get documents, and we're going to have a code block, get documents like so, and here we can have snap error in, and we can come down here and we say if let doc, and we have snap, because there's a possibility it might not be there, we say documents, and we say followers count, and we put in the doc dot count like so, right? And we do the same for the other collection, right? And we can come here and we could say, because they look alike, they look very much alike, we could just copy this code like so. No need to reinvent the wheel after the Sumerians. And we could say this is going to be followers. If we start with following, this has to be followers collection like so, and this is going to be user ID, get document, snap error, if, and this is going to be, oh, the upper one should be following, right? So following, followers. Actually, when I was building this, I came across many errors because I just copied code, so we were referring to the wrong collection, right? So this should be following, and this should be followers like so. So basically that will update our follow count, and the next function we need to create, right? Where does this function end? So there, we need another function here, and the function here is going to be, it's going to be called manage follow, right? And we could say func manage follow, and this is going to contain all these arguments plus one more, I believe, right? So let's copy this code. We hit copy like so. We come here, we paste, and we add another one. We could say follow check. That's my Pomodoro timer. I lost track of time, but let's just finish this one and then I can take a 5-minute break. Okay, so basically we have that follow check. We add a follow check of bool here, right? And you remember we created our follow check in the previous, in our profile service, and we can put our code there. And so this one, what this will check is it will check whether or not our follow check is true or false, and run some code. So we could say if not follow check like so, we want to say follow like so. We haven't created it, so it's going to complain, and we're going to say else. We're going to put some code, and we're going to run the unfollow method, which we haven't created, right? And yeah, so basically that's what that code will do. So if it's true, if it's not true, follow them. If it's true, unfollow them. Basically what you've done, the opposite, right? So the next thing to do is to create the follow and unfollow methods, and that's what you're going to do next. Follow. So let's figure out where this code ends. Does it end here? It ends here, right? So okay, fine. First thing we need to do is put in the create the follow function. We could say func follow like so, and we could have the code block, and a lot of this is going to look the same, so we could just copy this, the user ID, the following count, the followers count, right? So we copy this, come here, paste it like so. So we have, for the follow, we have the user ID, the following count, and the followers count, right? Like that. And here, after this, we could after this, the code inside, we could get the profile service. We could say profile service like so, dot following ID. This is the follow method. So we get dot following ID, and it takes in a user ID like so, and we are going to set data, and set data like so, and this is going to be a dictionary like that. And we could come here, and our code block, in our code block we could first have, we could say error in. If there is no error, if error is equal to nil, we can have our code. We could say self dot update follow count like so, and our user ID is going to be user ID. We created this method up there, and this is going to be following count, and this is going to be followers count. So basically that, right? And yeah, and the next thing we need to do is do the same for the followers, right? So this ends here, right? This, okay, fine. Yeah, so now we do the same for the unfollow, and for the unfollow it looks pretty much a lot like this with a few minor changes. And this is going to be unfollow. There's a song by NBA Pacers guard Victor Oladipo. I'm a big NBA fan. It's called Unfollow. So every time I say Unfollow, I think of the song. It's pretty decent. It's not too bad. Yeah, but he's an NBA star. I mean, it's weird to see an NBA star singing. Anyway, yeah, it was an All-Star, I think. He tried to dunk on during the, I think last year's but won the dunking competition. He dunked in the Black Panther mask with Chadwick Boseman, the late Chadwick Boseman there. So have a look. Anyway, that's a quick diversion. We can go back to creating our unfollow, and unfollow, the arguments are exactly the same, but here we need we come here and it's the same, right? It's pretty much the same. Oh, we actually forgot some code, right? We need to do something also in the followers, in the, what's it called, in the followers up here in the follow. We need to do something to the followers what's it called, the followers collection. So we could say actually the code looks a lot like this, right? So we could come here, copy this code. Let's copy the code. Don't worry, it's just this two, then we finish, then we can close the video, and afterwards we'll work on the UI. In the next video, I haven't decided how often I'm going to release a video. I was thinking about 2 a week. Yeah, so when I start off, I want to finish it, then start releasing 2 a week. Yeah, I still don't have an idea how many they're going to be. So here we could say followers ID, but I'm sure somebody in the comments has already asked me, because when I was making the Flutter one, it ended up being 42 videos, right? 42 videos. People kept asking me when the series is going to end, right? Okay, so the profile service at followers ID, user ID is going to be set data error, and this is going to be self.update follow count, but we're just going to use the followers ID, right? So basically that, right? Now this is going to be a bit different, right? So we're going to say followers ID, and actually the code is not going to be the same at all, right? This is the perils of trying to take the easy way out. So we could just clean this out in the unfollow. We're in the unfollow now. So for that we could say profile service dot following ID dot following ID, like so, and this is going to take a user ID. It's going to take a user ID, and we can just pass in the user ID from the top here, like so. And after that we could say dot get document, like so. And the get document here, we could have a code block. We're going to have the document error. We could just leave error as that in, and come down here and we say if it exists, just delete the document. We have seen it in action. If let doc equals document and doc.exists, like so. If it exists, we just say doc.reference.delete. That means we delete it, right? And then after that we can update the follow count, right? After we delete it, we update the follow count with the number of followers, right? So we could copy that code, come down here and do it like that. And after that we need to do it to the followers to check the followers ID, right? The followers collection. We need to do the same to the followers collection. So this code ends here. We could actually just copy this, right? Paste it, and this is going to be followers, not following, followers ID, like so. And this is going to just check the same thing, get the document, and update the follow count. Basically it's the same, right? And now we can come up here and we can click and hit fix, and it's going to be the same. So it's going to be user ID, following count is following count, and followers count is followers count, like so, right? And we could copy this, copy like so, paste. So basically our code. So now we have all other sections of our code working, and what will happen is, if all this code is correct and we have not made any errors, I haven't seen any, if we run it, the app should work the same, right? Because the UI, I've already put the UI in place, right? You can see it on the right. So if everything works, we should get the exact same results, right? So thankfully we're not getting any errors. And if we come to this, we have one following, so that part is working, right? If we search for a user, let's search for a user. Okay, let's put a P, we get password, we see he has one follow, and if we hit unfollow, and it's not being refreshed, meaning, oh, it is being refreshed. Give it a second. Okay, it's taking a bit longer. Unfollow. Okay, let's go back and see if we're following them. So the code is being refreshed, meaning that everything works. Okay, 0. Let's now follow them. Hit password, come to password, click on password, follow 1. We come back, following 1. So basically, yeah, so this code has no errors. If you can run it and everything checks out, it has no errors. So basically we have written the code that will manage our ability to follow and unfollow users, and yeah, basically that. And what we can do next in the next video is handle the UI, right? Because you see this page, let me talk about the UI a bit. If we click here and we come, the first thing you notice is that when we search, we now have a navigation link. When you click on password, you go to passwords page, right? And you get the name as a navigation link, and you also get their photos, basically the exact same thing. Although I don't think we've put padding here, because I believe in the profile we use some padding. So basically you get all this. So that's what we're going to do in the next video, and see you then.